This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 315 for Wednesday, April 24th, 2019. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. That geeky thing is Game of Thrones. So if you are watching that show, you are in the right place. Joining me this afternoon is Megan Townsend. Oh, Megan Townsend on all the places that matter. That includes Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Good. It's good to have you back. It's been a busy month. I feel like it's been a full 4 weeks since we've had you on the show.
I know. It's been a bit. There was 1 week where I was like, "Am I on the show today?" No, I'm not. We didn't talk about that, and it felt really weird because I feel like I'm not knocking anyone, but I know that people's lives get busy, and I usually work as a fill-in if no one can be there. But everyone was really was available all month, so it's nice. I mean, not that it's been a nice break because I always enjoy the show, but I'm able to do a lot more stuff first thing in the morning.
I'm just gonna sit here quietly. I'm gonna be here in the corner and watch you just paint yourself into it. This is kind of funny. No, I know. I know what you mean. I do find that when I do shows with some of the other guests, that it's more of an hour to an hour and a half call, whereas I'll look at my day after you and I do a podcast and go like, where did my afternoon go? And realize, the call was 3 hours, because you and I obviously live in the same city. We catch up, we talk and stuff before we actually record the show, sometimes after as well. So it can sometimes take a little bit of time, but that's something that
very long pre and post shows for us.
But long. It's one of those things that I've come to realize over the course of the last little while, especially with the Citadel Cafe, surpassing 300 episodes last year, realizing that the co-hosts that I've been working with now have been on it for much longer than even the original people that started the show with me. I mean, I've been on it for the duration, but there's been some people come and go over the years, but I feel like the core group that I have right now has become, I'm more than just co-host with them. I'm friends. There is more often now that 15 to 20 minutes after the podcast, if people have time to stick around, I always check to make sure of catch up, of how are you, how's the family, what's new with the house, whatever happens to be going on. I'm noticing that too on the Spawn Chunks with Johnny, is that we do record the pre and post show for our patrons over there, and that is usually just kind of banter about whatever. But lately I've noticed that our call is inching up on 2 hours, because there's a pre-post show or a pre show and a post show, in case we have any business to talk about with the podcast, or just the hey, how are yous, or the private stuff that we talk about as friends that we don't necessarily want to record and share with patrons. Because patron stuff is on that show is usually it could be anything. It could be Star Wars, it could be Did You See Avengers? It could be other video game stuff. I think there was some Breath of the Wild talk a little while ago, things like that. But with the Citadel Cafe, we don't do any pre and post show as far as the patrons are concerned. We do a barista cut, the bonus stuff for patrons, and that's going well. I'm hoping we've been doing more of those this year than last, which is good. And we've gotten some good feedback on those too. So it's been going well, but it's a weird dynamic where there's not a scheduled the show is an hour, and then we also bookend it with 15 minutes of pre and post, just because I remember back when I first got into podcasting, and I would guest on the odd World of Warcraft podcast or something like that, and they did, and I'd be doing my own thing, and they'd invite me to be on the show, and they were okay, so the pre-show starts at 2:00, and then we start the show at 3, and it goes for an hour and a half, and then there's and I was it's a 4-hour call. I'm just like, wow, I don't have that.
That's
I,
a lot. That's a lot of
that's a
time to
lot of
dedicate to
time.
it.
It's just a lot of time to
I mean, I
sit,
feel like we
right?
do that easily
Oh yes, no, we
anyway,
do,
but that's
and that's the thing
us
is,
though.
but that's I mean, it's because I was guesting on a show where that podcast might have been a raid party. They see each other twice a week online, talk for hours while they play video games, and so for to a podcast, it's just an excuse to be able to talk without having to stay alive, in a video game. Like you can
Yeah.
just do the one thing. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that it's my ability, or I guess not ability, my goal of to try to keep the Citadel Cafe roughly to an hour for the last 7 years has meant that it's both to keep it listenable, but also to keep me from being on 3 hour phone calls with my friends because I will.
Yeah.
Working from home, I
Yeah.
absolutely will be like, "Hey, human, real voice, I can talk to someone. This is amazing." And then all of a sudden, 3 hours later, and here we are. But speaking of content that we're doing and things that we're making, you recently did a bit of a rebrand on your YouTube channel. I know you've mentioned it on the show
Yeah.
before, but it's live, and I've been watching a couple of the new videos, so I wanted to point people towards it. So if you're curious about what Megan does outside of the Citadel Cafe, you can look up Megan Townsend. That's TOWNSHEND on YouTube.
Yes.
She does not yet have 100 followers, which means that she can't have that little custom URL that makes her even easier to find. So if you're
Right.
listening and you enjoy the content, drop a subscribe because it's free, and why not? And her stuff will come up in your feed. And you don't post like daily or anything like that. Like, what do you even have? You don't have a schedule, or is it just like whenever you want?
Uh, not yet. I had a little bit of a tech snag. I'm trying to get something out every Wednesday because I know that I'm off
Well,
every
that's cool.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Either every Wednesday or every Friday. Those are the days that I know that I am for sure
Hmm.
off as of right now. Um, I need to get a better external hard drive. That is kind of my main problem
Yeah.
as right now. That's kind of what I need to focus on. But I'm going through and I also I'm editing a video right now because I am an actor. I'm putting a lot more effort into my acting job now as things stand, and so some of my content will be going more towards like, all right, newbie actor. I'm also newbie, but I've also been doing it for I'm new in the sense that I'm new coming back, but I've done it for years before this. So
Right.
it's like taking what I knew from then, what I've been learning from now, compiling it into like, okay, here's what I learned, here's what I have utilized, here's what I've done to kind of get started again,
Hmm.
like from scratch. And I filmed this whole video on like 5 things that you need to get started, and then my camera stopped filming halfway through, like mid sentence.
Oh no.
So I had to like refilm the end of it. But I've made it kind of funny of like, it's like a freeze frame and then it slowly zooms out. And it's like, and then that's when my camera stopped filming. And let's
Hmm.
just continue on from where we left off. Um, so I'm trying to find like humor in things, and definitely trying to make my personality come through a bit more because I feel like I'm pretty quirky and weird. Like I have,
Yeah, I know.
I'm
In
I'm a,
a,
I'm
in
a
a
I'm a weird individual in
yeah.
like a kind of charming
Yes, I
way,
was saying
charming,
in a charming, appealing way, absolutely. But I
charming and
think
awkward
everybody
way.
is, and I think the difference these days is
Yeah,
that for the longest time, I mean, I grew up in the '80s, and if you were, even if you were charming, if you were weird, you kept that quiet because that's the kind of stuff that got your recess money taken. Like it's a different mentality now where weird is a lot more acceptable, and not necessarily weird. It's just being a little bit more awkward is seen a
yeah,
little it's seen a little bit more as genuine and humorous than it is awkward and ostracized. And I
yes.
find that the styles that I've seen in different YouTube vlogs. I don't watch a lot of vlogs. I'm more of a Minecraft, YouTube person. But I see it in the
Mhm.
voiceovers too. Where like I'll be watching one of my favorite Minecrafters is Mumbo Jumbo, and he'll be doing a scene and be just like, yeah, so this is precisely what I wanted to do. I'm so happy with this. This is going to be fantastic. And he just cuts to a black screen, and it's him speaking over in the editing room, going, "This it did not go well." And then he cuts
Oh
back and
man,
then he cuts back to his video where everything goes to hell in a handbasket. Or
that's fantastic.
and it's that editorial, it's that awkward, like, that didn't work. It's like I could go back and try to re-record, re-edit, and try to stitch this together so it's seamless and you just think that I'm the best Minecraft player ever, or I could just straight up throw a spotlight on giant mistake. Like this was
Yeah,
wrong. And
this
then
was wrong.
move
But
on.
it makes it funny that way. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, look, I'm owning up to my mistake. Let's laugh about it because
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to do that. And like, it's to the point where, like, in my video, I have a totally different background. I'm wearing totally different clothes. Like, my hair and makeup are different. Like, you can tell this is a different day.
Cloudy on day
Absolutely a
one,
different
sunny
day.
on take two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, completely just, something went wrong. I'm gonna try and and fix it. Um, but I'm still trying to go through all of my China videos and stuff too. Like it's been a long haul of trying to get through those. But
Hmm.
I keep forgetting how much content I have. Like I filmed so much for those days. Like I forgot how much I actually filmed. Like I still have like a whole vlog from one whole day trip that we took. I have all these cultural experiences that we did. Um, we had amazing experiences learning like, peking opera and like tea ceremony and how to make dumplings and things. We had a bunch of stuff.
Mm.
And enough to make like at least 4 or 5 more videos, maybe 6 of them even, depending on how much I can squeeze out of them. But I have a lot of videos to go through still. Some of them I might cut down. Like there's some, that are more classroom style, so I might cut those and just keep them for prosperity's sake. Um, but yeah, there's a lot that I have to go through still. So there's a lot more content coming. It's just a matter of me getting it done. I think
Do you
that's the
do you find it's more fun to do the editing or more fun to do the recording?
I like both.
And do you?
I do like both. I mean, because the story kind of comes together in the editing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like I have a lot of fun while I'm recording. And
Mm.
then when I go back and watch the footage, I get to like craft it how I want. And it's like, oh man, that was a really great time. Like it kind
Mm-hmm.
of like remind myself of like the
Right.
great time that I had.
Now,
So that's
do you find it easier to do the editing or easier to do with the recording?
oh, definitely recording.
Right. Okay. So the
Um,
reason why I'm bringing this up because I have the same problem with I am now a couple weeks behind where I do Minecraft videos. I'm not in the video, but I'm doing the screen recording, and I often do Twitch streams, and then I turn those into condensed videos because I don't have time to record separately from streaming. Like streaming and recording has to be like the same block of time for me,
yeah.
and I am constantly moving forward with streaming to the point where I didn't let myself even record videos last week. I did some streaming, but didn't with on purpose said I am not turning this into a YouTube video because I didn't feel like the content was going to be there. But also is that I've got video from 2 weeks ago that I haven't edited, 3 weeks ago that I haven't edited down into videos yet. And
Mm,
it's not that I've been avoiding it because I really like editing, but I just find that the content creation part live on Twitch is, we'll say, quote unquote, easier than the
yeah.
editing. And so naturally, I just kind of gravitate. Well, I could edit the video, or I could throw up a stream and make new content. That's easier. That gets more content to my audience faster. Like it is a direct line, bam, happening right now.
Uh,
Or they can watch the VOD. But I edit the VOD into something different on YouTube. And so
yeah.
I'm almost feeling like the pull between the two platforms. I know that you don't do any streaming yet, anyway.
Mm.
I you would be
It's
very
I've been tickling the idea
you'd be
around
very funny to stream in Minecraft. I would very much enjoy seeing the wheels turn live on camera. But I feel like I I'm glad to hear that that's a natural draw. Like the direct creation, the recording and the acting and the clips, not acting because it's a vlog, but for you, but like the
Mm.
vlogging part is more of a direct kind of line and more of an easier thing to do than the crafting of the edit and stuff like that.
But I do like crafting the edit as well because that's kind of where some of the
Hmm.
humor comes into it.
I like both as well. I
Um,
just find one easier than the other.
oh yeah, filming. I think it depends. Filming vlogs is way easier,
Right.
way easier because you're just kind of filming what happens. You don't have any kind of specific thing that you're focusing on.
Right.
When I do scripted videos when I'm trying to deliver information.
Right.
And the challenge right now is like, okay, setting this up and making it look like I'm just talking as naturally as possible because I I am an actor, yes, but I'm also like you also develop this YouTube voice and like there's this really specific YouTube voice for delivering information
Mm-hmm.
with like a I don't know, I know you know what I'm talking about. If you just say YouTube voice, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we get it. We understand."
Yeah, well, it's
Um
like podcast. I sound different on the podcast. You will know this because you and I talk in various different ways, off mic, and my delivery is different. Like
you know what? Only now that you said that am I really noticing it.
right? Well,
Literally just I was today years old when I figured out that you were like you actually do something
but
different with your
the,
voice.
the the thing about it is that it's a method of communication, and there's nothing worse than listening to a podcast and not being able to hear the person deliver information because they're mumbling, right?
Yes,
Whereas
yeah.
and it's just because it has to go through a microphone and post processing and earbuds and MP3 format and blah 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 blah. Whereas if you and I are in person talking, there's a lot that I can say without saying anything at all. For starters, there's a lot that I
Hmm.
can say. Because we've been friends for a long time, there's a lot that I can say, even with just subtle, more slang, more regional stuff. There's a lot more things like with a look can do a lot more than that on a podcast. And I feel
Yes.
like so you have to then project, and it's no different than when you're getting up and giving a speech. Like you don't give a speech like you talk to your mom. Like you don't give a speech like you talk to your best friend. You're addressing a crowd. I try not to get too pulpity, when,
Yeah.
when I'm on a podcast. But there is something to be said, I think, for clarity in the communication. I tend to slur words a little bit. I don't know whether that's just because of the region of Canada that we're from, whether it's just
That's
yeah.
definitely a regional thing. Yeah.
Also
From
whether
being from two different regions, I yeah,
yeah,
I hear it a lot more
yeah,
here.
and also I speak very quickly and I make a mental note to
Yes.
slow down when I'm on a podcast, if you can believe that. And so I will catch myself, especially I noticed this about editing video clips that I make of Minecraft previously versus now editing streams. Streams I'm way more comfortable and I don't have my guard up. And so
Mm.
I'll be editing something and be just like, I know what I said, but listening back to it, that's not a word. Like
Yeah.
that's two and a half words combined into a sound.
Yeah. And what I do with those instances, if I'm talking very, very quickly in a video or if I'm getting really animated or excited about something, or I do kind of slur some words together with it be a regional accent or just like I
Hmm.
just my brain just combined two things together. I will like put a translation underneath what I said.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
just but I'd like to kind of, again calling to light, hey, I screwed up here, but here's me you know, calling it out and also clarifying what I was trying to say in the first
Yeah,
place.
yeah. You can make fun of yourself, but also clarify the message, and maybe
Yeah,
kick a couple trolls in the knees before they decide to to start to leave comments,
exactly.
below.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like I have I've lucked out in that the comments on my YouTube videos have been generally pretty positive. If they're snarky at all, they're just kind of non-aggressive snarky. They're just kind of like they'll tag a time in the video that points to a mistake or something like that. Or I might mispronounce something. Like I remember when I was building a melon and a pumpkin farm, and I kept on calling melons pumpkins by accident, because
Mm,
both farms essentially function the same way. And so
yeah.
I was, there's a big orange pumpkin farm right next to me as I'm building this non-existent melon farm. So I kept on calling it a pumpkin farm. And I did call them melons at the beginning of the episode and at the end when I was like conscious of what I was saying and summing things up. But live on the fly, I kept on swapping the words. And I did that in the video. Like at the first time I said that, it was just like this little pop came up and it said, boop, I meant melon. And then it was like another boop. It's like, I'll do this a lot. Like this happens a lot in the next 15 minutes. So just
Right.
stop commenting right there. But it's not always the case. I went, Alistair, a mutual friend of ours, sent me a video of a new rendering engine that somebody created in a mod in Minecraft for an older version. And the two people that were going around talking about the ray tracing and talking about what was actually happening in this mod kept on calling torches candles, and they refer to a bunch
Oh,
of other different blocks in the game incorrectly, like as that's not the name for that thing. They're like, oh, this is a lava block and it's a redstone block, and it's stuff like I scrolled down to the comments and I really expected the community just kind of like, who are you noobs? Like I thought it was going to be
Yeah.
typical YouTube trash, and it wasn't. They were all talking about the render engine. There was really interesting questions. I was like, how on earth have you niched out this little world of YouTube where the comments, when you're making mistakes like that, where usually the community just pounces on you. It was such a strange thing to
And I'm
see.
sure if you dig deep enough, there's
Oh,
probably,
probably.
people who do.
Yeah.
I wonder too if it's also, I know there's an option to have to review comments before they're posted.
That could be it
So
too.
I'm wondering if that might also be part of it, is
Yeah.
that they're reviewing the comments that are left
Yeah.
before they're posted.
I didn't do that because it just seems like a lot of work.
It does seem like a lot of work, and I'm probably not going to do it going forward either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
depending on what
I
happens.
can understand that. So it's yeah. I'll have to ask Pixel Riffs because Johnny, my co-host on the Spawn Chunks, just hit the 100,000 subscriber mark
Oh,
on
wow.
YouTube.
Congrats, Johnny. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
really cool. And so I wanted to give him a shout out here on the show. I've already said congrats to him personally, but for those of you that are interested in what that kind of growing channel looks like, I want to say he was not 50,000 6 months ago. Certainly, I remember seeing a
Wow.
5 or a 6 at the beginning of his subscriber number when we started the Spawn Chunks in August. So in a very short period of time, he's gained quite a lot of following and a good following. Like the community that it's around the channel and both him and on YouTube and on Twitch. Are really just genuine people. Like for the people that I see rising to the top of the conversations seem pretty cool. So if you're looking to, for anybody out there that's looking at YouTube and looking at using it for whatever platform, or not platform, but for whatever message you want to send, you could always go take a look at something like that and kind of see where things go.
Mm.
And he's now of that size though, where he does get some very snarky comments.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
yeah.
and I haven't had an opportunity yet to ask him, about it, to talk about it on mic, just because it's I mean, it's always handled with grace, but sometimes sometimes it's just like he'll be commenting. He shared some comments with me, but they weren't his. It was like someone commenting on or sending a tweet back to like one of the hermits who have like 400,000 followers or more. And
Yeah.
he'd be just like screenshot it going like, wow, this guy's helpful. you know and he's sharing it with me because it's funny, but it's also just kind of like, wow, there are really people out there that think that that's a good thing to say. like it just
Yeah.
But I feel like he's experiencing some of that himself now, and it's it's cool to see growth like that for someone that deserves it so much. But at the same time, that they're also getting the fodder that they don't deserve purely statistically.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been part of the internet for a long time, and I feel like that's just something that you're gonna have people who are gonna give you a hard time about stuff, regardless of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I know I'm not nearly at that point yet, but I mean, I've had people call me out on stuff, like whether it be in person
Right.
or even a response to a comment that I'd made, and you're always gonna say something that someone doesn't like. You're
Mm-hmm.
always gonna do something that someone doesn't like, and it's not a reflection of you. It's more so a reflection of them.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'll just be like, I'll respond, depending on what it is, if need be, and just be like, all right, I wish you well, and but it's almost something you have to be you have to expect it. I see it on a lot of, like, YouTubers who started at nothing and who've built up to a lot of stuff. They all say you eventually just have to deal with this,
Yeah. Or,
and how you deal with it will is a reflection of who you are as a person. If
mhm.
you deal with it with a lot of like lashback and negativity, that's going to send a message to everyone else who does support you and who is kind to you. If
Hmm.
you deal with it of being like, all right, just kind of like play it off and respond courteously, but don't let it affect you at all, or don't make a big scene about it. I personally think that's a better. I respect people more who are just like, whatever. It's
Yeah.
not my problem.
Yeah.
It's not in a reflection of who I am as a person that this person is giving me a hard time.
And I think that part of
So
that is just the community at large being a little bit more aware and being able to spot a troll a lot farther away, and
yeah.
realizing that if you don't give attention to it, then it goes away. It's funny. I had a hard time as a young man in junior high school. I had a classmate that was really giving me a difficult time. I was not nearly as confident as most of us are probably not as a young teenager. as I am now. And so
Not in
I
junior high,
no,
no.
so I didn't know how to deal with it. And the advice I got, from my father and from my parents and from teachers was like, ignore it, it'll go away. You're not supposed to act on it, right? And it didn't go away. And it was like it's different, in that situation where you're in person, where on the internet, if you don't give people enough attention, I mean, not to minimize the internet at large, but like people can be attention whores, these days.
Hmm.
And if you
Hmm.
don't feed the beast, they will just vanish and find someone else that will, right?
Yeah.
Where it's different when you've got like a class of 30 and you've got this one kid giving another kid a hard time. There's nowhere else to go, right? If
Yeah.
that kid doesn't get attention from you, it's not that they will stop and pick on somebody else. They've already shown the group that that's the target, and they're just going to keep on targeting. And it's weird to, as someone that grew up in the 80s, to try to get out of that mentality of that not working and being like, oh, no, no, in
Mm.
this situation it really does. I know we've got to move
Yeah.
on, but one of the bits of advice that I received from a podcast, I think it was actually when we interviewed Dave Kellett on Comics Coast to Coast, but it could be me hearing this from another show. I'm sure he's said this in a number of different interviews and stuff. Plus, he has his own podcast and stuff. Um, but he would be responding to, he's a webcomic artist, so he would be responding to people criticizing his work, calling him a hack, or like, why are you doing this old joke, or you did this joke before, basically criticizing him for not doing a good comic that day. And this is someone that draws a comic every day, has for like 20 years. And so Dave's response was bottled, but unfailing kindness. Just like, wow, thanks so much for reading, Sheldon. It means the world to me that you took the time out of your day to, take in my comic that I put my love and effort into every single day. Thank you so much. And that was the reply to like, you suck, essentially, right?
Hmm.
And and he was like, what they can read whatever they want. What I get the satisfaction of behind the scenes is that there is so much sarcasm and so much just venom behind this
Yeah.
outward facing pour of kindness, that
Yeah.
but it seemed to him it was the most embarrassing thing that he could do to the naysayer, right? But still remain him, because he's to all of my experiences with Dave Kellett, which has been few, he's always just been kind with his time and kind with his advice. Like he is that kind of an individual. And so that's the perfect kind of response for Dave to, use. I did find it amusing that in one of his more recent podcasts that he confessed that as he's been getting older, that's been harder and harder to do.
Hmm.
Because he's had to do it more and more often, and it's like now I just want to tell these kids to just jump off a bridge, but I can't. And
Yeah.
yeah, like it's a double-edged sword, but like you get the community that you deserve. Like if you are going to jump into fights like that, then I think that you'll end up with more of those people trying to be the one that gets to start the fight that week, and get that check mark on their internet badge of honor. But
Yeah.
use the word honor loosely, but if you're not engaging, then the people that don't have time for that kind of stuff will be like, all right, well, I'll talk to them about something that will get a response. And I tend to do that even more selectively, just purely because of my time and purely because of the number of comments and emails and stuff that we have coming in from, say, like the Spawn Chunks now. And like, we can't answer everything. We just can't. We can pick one or two to have on the show. I can email reply to someone sometimes when it really feels like it needs a response. I mean, we always let everybody know that we read every single email, and we do. But I just don't have time to reply to everybody. So I have to reply to comments and to emails that are thought provoking. And I'm trying to just encourage, especially in a public venue like a YouTube comment or something like that. If someone says like, "Hey, great, love the show," I'll like the comment, and I'll say thank you sometimes. But really, I'm going to be more inclined to comment on someone's like, "Hey, I really enjoyed this episode when you guys talked about X. I have an idea. What do you think about Y?" And I'm just like, "Oh, okay. There's someone that's engaged." And like, I'll engage
Yeah.
with that because I want to foster more of that. And
Yeah.
so but yeah, it's one of those things that you have to be very conscious of the actions that you're taking when you're at the helm of that sort of stuff. And we are far off track and far longer into the show than I thought we would get
Hmm.
before we started talking about Game of Thrones. So let's switch gears in a transition that is as hard as nails, but that's okay.
Yeah.
This is going to
Suddenly we're
be
back in the medieval times.
yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
uh, so this week we are going to be discussing episode 2 of season 8, full on
Yeah.
spoiler warning as per usual. This should be old hat for people by now, but just, a warning: if you have not watched the episode, I would encourage you to watch it before you listen to the rest of this episode of the Citadel Cafe. The title for this episode is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and I will do my best to read the very long description because there seems to be so much happening in all these episodes now. Jaime reveals Cersei's deception to the Targaryen Stark alliance, and despite Daenerys and Sansa's mistrust, joins their forces after Brienne vouches for him. Jaime later apologizes to Bran for crippling him, with Bran saying it's not that he's not angry and they are no longer the same people. Tyrion loses Daenerys' favor for having trusted Cersei, prompting Jorah to ask Daenerys to forgive him. Daenerys fails to gain Sansa's trust through their mutual love for Jon after refusing to give any assurances about the North's fate. Theon, Ed, Tormund, and Beric arrive at Winterfell, with the latter three reporting House Umber's fall. That's what we saw in episode 1. Bran proposes that he lure the Night King, who intends to destroy the Three-Eyed Raven. His plan is reluctantly accepted, with Theon and the Ironborn offering to protect him. Gendry finishes a special weapon for Arya, who then seduces him. Tyrion, Jaime, Davos, Brienne, Podrick, and Tormund share a drink, during which Jaime formally knights Brienne. Jorah falls. I keep on feeling to read this. Jorah fails to dissuade Lyanna Mormont from fighting and receives House Tarly's ancestral sword as a gift from Sam. As the army of the dead approaches, Daenerys finds Jon at Lyanna Stark's tomb and learns about his Targaryen lineage and claim to the Iron Throne. See what I mean? Like, there was just
a lot that happened.
There's a metric ton of stuff that happened, and arguably one of the slowest episodes of Game of Thrones. It was very much the calm before the storm. A lot of characters kind of like taking a breath before the plunge and trying to sew up and form up, maybe mend some of the bonds and the rifts that we've seen over the last 5 to 8 years, depending on which characters you're talking about, and trying to figure out how they can all work together to win the day. You would need that. Like, you need that kind of burying the hatchet moment. Sometimes spelled out for you, sometimes not. A really good example is something that I just mentioned, which is Jorah and Lyanna Mormont. He's trying to protect her, saying, like, I'm done. Like, I am not going to be, I've been dishonored. I've been, I'm only back here because of Daenerys. I'm only alive because of Sam. Like, you are the future of the Mormont household. You need to survive. And, he's also looking at her like, you're also 4 foot tall. Like, what are you going to do?
I love her as a
great
character.
Actor. Yeah.
I think she's a great actor. This little girl is just like a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an attestament to, like, I feel like all the women in the North are just like
very much so
powerful women. They're all just like really, really no nonsense, get to the point. Here's how it's gonna be. It's my way or the highway kind of deal. And I love it. I'm here for it. It makes me really happy. That makes me nervous for her though, because like I know next episode is gonna be an absolute emotional mess. I feel it in my bones that everything is just gonna be bad, just all bad all the time. So many people are gonna die, and I feel it, and I don't want her to be one of them.
Yeah.
But I feel like she will be.
Yeah.
If they put that much care into that scene.
It's one of those things where Game of Thrones can make you very uncomfortable. When they spend a lot of time on a really heartwarming scene, you're kind of going, oh crap. Because it's like they're lulling you into submission, right? Or they're giving you the happy ending. And there's a lot of happy endings in this episode, like a lot of characters receiving the thing or doing the thing or having the conversation that's been weighing on them for years, or achieving a goal, whatever that happens to be, reaching peace, realizing it doesn't care or it doesn't matter, whatever it is, they've all reached it, and you're like, oh crap. Now it's just an absolute who knows what's going to happen next episode. Bella Ramsey is the name of the actor, and here's a fun little juxtaposition. She's the voice of Hilda in the Netflix animated Hilda Hilda series.
Is she actually?
Yeah, and it is very weird to see her IMDb page with her smiling.
Like, she's so stony faced.
Yeah, she's so stony in Game of Thrones and so serious all the time. But yeah, though she's And
That's so
she's all of 15. So, you know, kudos to her for being such a strong presence, because she's been on Game of Thrones for more than just one season. I want to say it's been three. So she's definitely has a presence. I also really like
yeah.
Jorah. I just like.
Me too.
I know he's done some reprehensible stuff in his past, but his devotion to Daenerys, and he's one of the few people that I really understand loves Daenerys, but not in a romantic way.
Well, he did.
Yes, but he's put that behind him, and he's old enough to accept the fact that that's not going to happen. And I feel
Yeah.
like he's not. He still loves her, but there's no jealousy for anything else,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like he's not aggressive towards
Yes.
John. He doesn't mistrust John. He's following her example, and he trusts Daenerys, and she trusts John. So he's just devout, and in a positive way. It's not a negative thing on their relationship. It's one of the few relationships in the show right now where you don't feel like there's something underneath at all,
Yeah.
pulling the strings. That is, and I think that's one of the things that uh, in the writing you're meant to see between Daenerys and Jorah, is that there's there's no mystery to it. Like they
Yes.
know precisely what it is. She loves him like a father. He loves her in a lot of different ways, like a daughter, like a
Mm-hmm.
leader, like a queen. At one point, like someone he had, great romantic affection for, but then also in the same sort of way you might look at, or care for someone that's a former, partner, like a former relationship, but it didn't end badly, and you wish them well and want
Yeah.
them happy. And there's a lot of nice memories there, even though you can't go forward with those memories. You can still go forward with the new way, that the relationship is. Anyway, I really enjoy the conversations that they let us see in this episode with
Yes.
and I guess to that point, Jorah defending Tyrion, who took his job.
Yes. Yeah. I gotta be honest, I'm not really digging Danny this season
Mm-mm.
a lot. I think she's on the road to becoming a villain, which is part of the interesting thing about this show is that like no one is good or evil. Everyone has two sides. No
Mm-hmm.
one is inherently good or inherently bad. Um, but I feel like Daenerys is kind of she's really really power hungry, and we've seen that before. Like we've seen that she's incredibly ruthless in a lot of ways, and she's quick to temper. Like she's a
Yeah.
spitfire. Like she gets mad real quickly and real easily.
And I don't know where
Um,
that came from. Like, I don't understand where freeing the slaves and being the breaker of chains, where the switch came to bend the knee or die. Like,
I well,
I don't
I
remember
think
that
it
switch.
came. I think it came partially in season one because I mean I went back and I watched everything before I watched this season,
Wow.
and it feel everything like from season episode one all the way through. It took me like 2 weeks, 3 weeks because I didn't have anything else to do with my life, at the detriment of not doing anything else. And uh, it happens fairly early on in season one. It's like the minute that Viserys, hits her, and she hits him back,
Mm,
and she's like, "The next time you strike me, or the next time you lay a hand on me, will be the last time you have hands." And that
right.
was like the immediate switch. And when he shows up, when she starts, being empowered by Drogo and like by the Dothraki, and she takes kind of ownership of herself being a Khaleesi.
Mm,
Um, she's that's kind of when the switch starts happening. And then as soon as Viserys is dead, and she just kind of watches him die, and without any feeling in any way, shape, or form, it's kind of like that. I think that's where the cold-hearted
mm.
"I am a queen and I'm not going to let anyone take it away from me" mentality came to be. So it happened fairly early on, but I think it's just gotten progressively more and more and more ruthless. Um,
'Cause for me,
but I think
the
that's
switch feels more drastic from season. I want to say 6 to 7. Like, I rewatched 7 before getting into season 8, and she was
mm,
pretty like, all through season 7. It was very much like, I'm here to subjugate all of you, and it didn't feel at all like she was there to free Westeros, right? Where she had freed, um, I guess there's just called the Eastern Kingdoms. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
The other side, Volantes and all that kind of space.
yeah,
But I remember when she was, is it Marine that she was holed up in with the pyramid? I think it's
Marine,
Marine.
yeah.
And I just remember her being, I guess, gentler. Not that she wouldn't punish people that were doing bad things, but she seemed to be more concerned with people and with subjects rather than just conquering and moving forward. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
it has also been a longer time since I've seen those seasons, so I defer to your interpretation.
I know what you mean. She definitely did seem a lot softer, but I think as soon as the option to I know she ended up killing a lot of the masters of Marine. Like
Mm,
she had them executed, and that's kind of where this whole conquering mentality came from. I think was just like if you're not going to abide by me, then fuck you. Essentially, you're gonna die. Um, and I think that's kind of just carried forward in a really really extreme way. As soon as she got back on the back in Westeros, it's very much like you know it's very 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 much me. So it's I'm a little bit concerned because like the whole plan that Tyrion had in the first place of like going along with Cersei and like to defeat the Night King and everything. Like she was on board with everything that Tyrion had suggested to her. She was on board with, and then she very very quickly, as soon as Jamie shows up and is just like, oh, I'm not. Cersei lied to all of us. She instantly gets mad at Tyrion for it. It's like, well, you trusted her as well. You believed that she was gonna follow through with this as well, which is something that Sansa pointed out to
pointed out
her.
to her. Yeah, no, I remember that. Yeah.
So I feel like Daenerys is kind of on the edge of being a little bit unhinged. I think like
Mm-hmm.
she's just so quick to anger,
And
and
blaming
everyone keeps
everybody
saying
but
she's not like
herself.
her father. She's not like her father. She's not, she's not the Mad King, even though she's Mad King's daughter. I feel like it's going to be really interesting. I'm hoping that she's the type of person who gets snap mad about it, thinks about it, and then reassesses and then says, "No, I was wrong," because she's done that a lot in the past in her way. She was quick to anger, and then she'd be like, "I realized that I was a little bit too."
Mm.
Or she'll say, "I've changed my mind," is
Mm-hmm.
what she'll say. It's like in a very Daenerys fashion.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that's kind of how things go with this. But I think, she got instantly mad about the whole situation with John because John revealed himself as his true self to her, and she was instantly mad about it.
Mm.
Um, she was really quick to dismiss Tyrion right away, and only really relented when Jorah said, "Okay, chill out for a second. Think
Mm-hmm.
about this."
Yeah.
Um,
She needs that balance, and this is one of the reasons why I think not only the audience really enjoys John and Cersei, or John as reading the notes, John and Daenerys as a couple, but also why other characters in Game of Thrones think they would make a good team ruling is because John is measured to the point of almost inaction, which is a problem. Whereas
mm,
Daenerys has the opposite, whereas she can reach points where she lashes out a little bit, verbally easily, but sometimes even with actions. And so, if those decisions of ruling a kingdom were being made by these two people, then you have like a yin and yang,
yeah,
right? You have the white hot and the ice cold, same in like off with his head now, dear. Just a minute,
yeah,
like just hold
yeah.
on. We can maybe think of
But
something
it's
else.
still really weird because she's his aunt.
Oh, I know. George R. R. Martin is messed up. He's got some serious. He likes to paint these weird sort of situations. Now, I mean, in history, I'm sure that some people, probably unbeknownst to them, were marrying and or sleeping with relatives. But it's just like,
Yeah,
oh,
and I know that was a thing that was like not uncommon in the Targaryen line.
no.
Cersei mentions that pretty early on in season one
And at some point, they
when
mention it as a reason for the madness, right? Like it's inbreeding. Like
yeah,
that's
well
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So I
although
think
Cersei calling the pot black, right? Like that.
yeah, well all three of her children,
Yeah.
well four of her children because she's pregnant again.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, but yeah, I don't know. It's I'm still kind of weird about the whole relationship. I think at this point for them, I'm kind of just waiting to see what happens.
Mm.
I feel like I will accept any outcome.
For me, I think that it was predictable in terms of her response to John telling her his lineage.
Oh
I
yes.
preferred the way that they started the conversation. I liked that she just found him standing in front of Lyanna Stark's. Is it Lyanna Stark? I think it's Lyanna Stark.
Yes, Liana. Yeah,
Yeah.
Liana.
Lyanna Stark and Mormont have the same first name. That's why I got confused. But so he's standing in front of her grave, and then she recalls the story of like my brother was supposed to have raped her, and that's not. I don't. That doesn't fit all the other stories that I hear about my brother. And John actually says,
Mm,
"Well, actually, he didn't." And then rather than saying like, "Honey, we need to talk," and starting that whole, that whole
yeah.
conversation with like this dead like all things stop, and we have to start this hard conversation that we have to have. But true to
Yeah.
my prediction last week, the first thing that she goes to is the fact that the only proof that the people bringing the proof to you of this lineage are your brother and your best friend. Like, how convenient is that? Now, she didn't
Yeah.
mention that Sam just found out that I burned his dad and brother, and is I thought that they were going to go down that road where she was going to say, well, obviously Sam is just revengeful, about me killing, other members of his family. But I'm in a way that I'm glad they didn't, because that paints Sam in a light that everyone knows isn't true, and he would have to then defend with other people in the show, and it just doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah.
like, and she also didn't mention anything about like Bran's weird three-eye raven thing. She just, she went brother and best friend as opposed to some weird prophet that we don't know how he works or why,
Yeah.
and some guy that I just burned his dad, alive. It's
Yeah.
yeah. I also feel like they haven't done a very good job in the show of depicting how much time has passed since she killed Sam's parents. He just found out recently, like within a week, within a couple of days, because I don't know how much time has passed
Yeah.
since episode 1 and episode 2. But since season 7 and season 8, there's no indication as to how much time has passed, other than like some of the characters have longer hair and like stuff like that. So it doesn't seem to be um, soon. So I feel like
Mm,
Sam or Daenerys, it's kind of in her past to the point where she almost forgot about it. Like I remember when Jorah and Daenerys were there when they informed Sam that Tolly, like the two Tollys had died, and the look between Sam to Daenerys and Jorah was just like, oh crap, right? Like it was like,
right.
oh, we
Ooh,
did that.
ooh.
Like that was it's like
Yeah.
that was a long time ago, but ooh,
I do
I
have
didn't
to
expect to
say
run
the
into his
later
kid.
seasons, yeah, the later seasons have been really not great in terms of like depicting
Conveying
time
that, yeah.
flow. Like the first couple seasons were really really great at it. And then but now we're kind of in uncharted territory at this point because the books are still not being they're still not done yet. So
Mm-hmm.
George R. R. Martin's story has not been concluded. So this is sort of like um I guess a possible outcome that will become the official show outcome, but
Yeah.
maybe different from the book outcome.
My understanding is that
So
the
I
showrunners are working from an outline provided by Martin in terms of events and where things happen and what he has planned. The books themselves and the dialogue and all that kind of stuff and the scenes haven't been written, but so the showrunners
mm,
are working off an outline. I don't know if that outline gets to the point of the end or whether it was just meant to outline season 7 and 8 broadly. Um,
right.
I at this point, having read all the existing books and watched the show up to this point, I feel more comfortable in the hands of the showrunners than I do George R. R. Martin. I don't necessarily because the kind of stuff George R. R. Martin just seems to be the kind of author that is just going to end it in a way that, not that he should appease fans, but I feel like it's just he's going to end it the way that he wants to end it, and he might even just get fed up with it and just end it. Like it, and it just it's the same way that I felt about Lord of the Rings when I read the climax of Lord of the Rings. Like literally the death of Sauron and the walk home. It's like 3 pages, and it's just like, and then they won, and everything was good, and now it's the 4 chapters of them walking home and fixing everything. It's like what? I read 3 books to get this. Like, and then the tower fell, and all in the good was restored in the world. It's like, are you
I mean,
kidding
keep
me?
in mind though, Tolkien was not a writer; he was a
No,
linguist.
I get that. No, I understand. But he's a writer enough that it took 3 books to get there, and
It's
it's
true.
one of those things where like, and I find that with, I mean, in some ways, like some of the events in Game of Thrones in the books, I mean, I remember, reading the Red Wedding and sitting up in bed going like, what just happened? And then rereading those pages going like, oh crap. This
Hmm.
is not the hero story that I was being groomed to follow. And you get that payoff later, like you get that shift to focus on Jon, and Sansa and those Starks as like the real steadfast heroes. um
Yeah.
but I hear you with the uneasiness of even just the next battle. Like I mean, there is no way, um in a show like Game of Thrones, that all of your show runners, all of your show main characters make it through the next battle. Like there's just no way. And
Yeah.
everybody, all of the all of the favorites. I mean, no one likes Cersei, but she's not there. All of the favorites
Yeah.
are there at Winterfell. So the chances of all of those people, like all the people in that giant hall with the hearth and the fire, drinking wine and singing songs, they're not all coming back. I mean,
Yeah.
low money on the totem pole, Podrick. See you, bud. Like,
Which makes me so sad
right?
because I actually love Podrick, especially like watching him like train other people
Yeah.
and Brienne watching and like I was watching it with Bethany and she was like, "Oh, Pod's good now. He's good at sword fighting." And it was just really nice to see like obviously it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
His the last time we saw him fighting with Brienne, she was like kicking his ass and being like, "Again, again, no, keep
Mm-hmm.
your sword up for God's sake." And now he's like training other people to do it, and she's kind of watching with this look of just like, "No, look, my proud boy."
Mm-hmm.
But then immediately she's like, "He's all right. He's fine." As soon as someone points him out, she's like, "He's all right."
Yeah, it was Jamie
It's
actually. I think
like,
Jamie came up and said like,
yeah,
"Oh, he's
yeah,
actually good," because Jamie's seen Pod throughout. Like I think Pod
yeah.
was at one point Jamie's
His
squire.
squire,
Yeah, and
yeah,
then
for like
also
a hot second,
yeah, and then it was also with Tyrion as well,
yeah.
at some point. So it's one of those things that, you forget because he doesn't have a big speaking role, and so you
Mm-hmm.
forget how long he's been in the show, and how much of
Yeah,
a familiar, comfortable, kind of character relationship he
person he is.
provides. Yeah.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed the interaction between Jamie and Brienne.
me
um,
too.
I thought it was really really well balanced. I had forgotten that, Jamie had lost his hand defending her.
Yes.
So
No,
much.
I didn't forget, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was a big character moment.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that he had lost it after he was meant to be felt comfortable, and like you won that round sort of thing, and then someone just lopped it off. And
Yeah.
in my memory, it was like for no good reason. Like I didn't understand. Like I didn't remember that him necessarily slighting anyone, other than them just recognizing him, and a bunch of low life upstarts wanting to take a night of fame and recognition down a notch.
Hmm.
I forgot that he had said like, no, you can't assault her. You have to be honorable. Like, this is not what we're here for. And they're just like,
Yeah.
what kind of, that's not the Jamie Lannister, that I heard of, sort of thing. And they end up cutting his hand off. But I really enjoy how humble Jamie is. And
Me too. He's very quickly become one of my favorite characters, I think, because
mhm.
when you think back of where he started and where he is now, it's really amazing. It's an amazing transition.
I think a lot of that transition started in hindsight from when he was a captive, uh,
Hmm.
of Robb Stark, having lost. I
Yeah.
can't remember the name of that battle. The Battle of something, Battle of the Twins, Battle of the something. I can't remember what it was, but it was before Robb Stark died. And Robb Stark, despite all the things that Jamie had done, not killing him on the spot, eventually sparing his life and trading him for, I believe it was Sansa and Arya was supposed to be the trade,
Yes.
and then sending himself. I believe Brienne was delivering him. I think
Yeah,
that
she
was the
was still
mission.
supposed to deliver him because she was indebted to Catelyn.
Right, right. And so, yeah, right, because she was supposed to bring the girls home.
Yeah.
And I think that knowing that he was spared by Robb Stark, and then knowing how Cersei bribed, I can't remember the name of the phrase, the
The
phrase to then
phrase, yeah,
murder Stark and both Lady Stark and Robb at the
the
royal
Red
red
Wedding.
wedding. I think that was kind of inward. I think it was a turning point. It was like,
Hmm.
no, that wasn't right. Like this guy
Yeah,
beat me, had me dead to rights, and could have easily done some sort of double cross, but didn't. Just wanted his sisters back, you know.
yeah,
And this is how we repay that honor, right? Um, more honor from someone that wasn't a knight, right? Than those that
yeah,
were. And I think that was a big turning point for Jamie, and you can see that reflected now. I mean, the courage to just ride to Winterfell and walk in there knowing that full well they could just shoot him on sight. Like you could just
yeah.
be like, "See ya."
And also the balls to, like, go against Cersei as
Yes,
well.
yeah.
Like, I don't think Cersei knows that he's just up and left. Or, but she probably
She knows
knows,
he's
but
left.
like,
There was she sent Bronn to kill Jamie and Tyrion last episode. Um,
oh right, she did.
so she knows that he's left, and I guess that she either knows of from spies or from reports that where he's gone.
Hmm.
But uh, I well, no one can know. I mean, she can't know how much information he's given. She just would probably just assume pure treachery and just like death to them all. I'm really tired of Cersei. I don't find her
Me
scenes
too.
interesting. I'm glad she wasn't in this episode, because I don't care anymore. Like it's just everything she does is wrong. You know it's wrong, and it seems
Yeah,
it seems very one note. And I don't find the character interesting anymore, and I don't exactly know how they're going to end her story and have it be in any way satisfactory other than Daenerys killing
yeah.
her. But I mean, the thing is like,
I would really like to see Jamie end her. I
yeah,
think that would be
Jamie
a
has to be
good
the
like
one.
roundabout,
Yeah,
or Tyrion
T-
even,
Tyrion.
one
Yeah,
of her
maybe.
brothers.
Yeah, maybe one of the brothers. I could.
But Arya would also be really
I
nice
would
to see
say
that too.
Arya would be good too. That's right. Because of her dad. No, because of I think it's just
Well,
in
her
general.
dad
Yeah.
in
Well.
general,
Yeah, but
yeah.
yeah. Well, Cersei might have been the one. I can't remember who gave the order to kill Ned Stark.
It was Joffrey. It was Joffrey for sure.
Joffrey, right, but probably at the behest of Cersei, right?
Well, no, because again, I went back and I watched everything, and she did say, like, don't do this. She did try and stop him
Ah,
from
okay,
killing Ned because
okay,
Ned was a big bargaining chip.
right,
But I think it was for the Red Wedding, because Cersei was the one who was just like, here you go, phrase, kill
right,
the Starks.
right. You're right.
Um, I think that's what Arya was going after
Mm-hmm.
her for.
Right. Oh, yeah. The list is
For her
long, but
mother
Arya
and her
has.
brother.
Arya
Yeah.
has. Yeah.
Arya has a, well, I think it's gotten shorter.
Yes, it has one because
Um,
most of them are dead.
yes,
I
yeah,
think the Hound points that out. Somebody points that out. Uh,
yeah.
I think before we move on from Jamie, I want to point out the very very cool scene of Jamie knighting Brienne. Uh,
Oh,
so
made me
good.
so happy. I
Yeah,
cried a little bit.
it
I was
was
like, that was like the best moment.
very very well handled.
Yeah,
Not a no like of a scene that had too many jokes and to the point where it was taking me out of the show. No one, not even Tyrion, had a smart aleck remark. Like
yeah,
that was a nice character moment, a nice reward for people that have been rooting
yeah,
for Brienne for years,
yeah.
and really really well
And the
done.
fact that it was Jamie to knight her as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
I feel like that's a good bonding character moment between the two of them.
Yep.
And it was like, it started out as a joke and then was like, no, this is serious. And Jamie was solemn and he was like
Mm-hmm.
firm and he was professional. And then they were all just like, okay, this is a real moment that's happening.
Yep.
And like her happiness afterwards was like palpable. Like,
Yep.
I was like, I wanted to cry. I was like, you've been working
Mm-hmm.
for this for so long and now you have it. And that's so good. I don't know, it's just a good thing.
It,
And as much as I don't want Brienne to die, I feel like if she were to die now, she would die with a complete story because she's done everything that she wanted to do
mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
the most part. Like, she achieved all that she wanted
Yeah. Yeah.
to
I
the best
agree.
of her abilities.
I
So,
mean, and speaking of, like, there's another fitting end. I feel like we may end up seeing Jamie die defending Brienne. Like, I feel like she might be at a point where
yes.
she might be about to be cut down, and he might interject and end up going that way.
Yeah.
Not really sure. I hope not, because I don't feel like there's been enough between Tyrion and Jamie yet to call
Yeah, I
that
agree.
resolved. I also just really enjoyed their banter, like the fact that like there was a moment in front of the fire where Tyrion's like, "I wish our father was here," and Jamie looks at him like, "You shot him." Like, you are the reason he's not here. And then Tyrion corrects him, like, no, 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 not because I like him, because I would like to see the look on his face about us about to die defending Winterfell of all places. And then Jamie was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no, right, yeah, that is funny. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, like the
I don't know.
history
Just
and the fact that even after all they've been through, they still get one another so well in the way that that's written. I don't want that to go away. And
me
there's a
too.
certain amount of that throughout the show that and that's the kind of thing that you lose when you lose a character. It's not about losing just that one character. It's about all the interactions that happen. You know, like if you lose someone
Mm,
like, I'm trying to think about who might, not make it, but if you lose someone like Sam or Jorah or something like that, then you lose these pillars that so many of the other main characters lean on. Like you mentioned earlier, that no one's good or bad; everybody's just kind of in the middle, and no one is stable and solitary either. All of them
yeah.
need one another to balance things out. Like you said,
Yeah.
Daenerys needs Jorah, or she's going to go off the deep end. Like, speaking of something that could push her over the deep end, Jorah dying, like that could be
Yep.
enough to bring the wrath, of the Mad Queen. We don't know. Um, but yeah, it was a really, all of that whole scene in the front of the fire was great. Like there's a couple of little fun nods. The Onion Knight wanting a drink despite not wanting one at first because Tormund came in, just does some disgusting stuff. And I like Tormund as a character. I don't like the writing for him this episode. I thought it was
Oh, really? I
contrived
really
and
liked
over
it.
the top, and I don't know.
I
Like,
really liked it
I
because
feel,
I thought he was trying to like impress Brienne,
oh,
and he was just
he
like
was,
he's doing this whole bravado thing, like a teenager, like a teenage boy,
yep,
trying to be like, "Oh, look, I'm super cool. You should totally date me."
yeah,
When he's a grown ass man, and for some reason that when you first meet him and he's so serious, and
yes.
then seeing him now where he's totally loosened up, I personally really like it. I think it's a really nice, fun thing. I really liked his interception with John. Like when John went to go hug like some of the other like
Yeah,
watch people, and he
yeah,
just comes out of nowhere. He's like, "Hey!" and, like gives him a big old hug. That
yeah,
was great.
yeah. He's the
But
big
his
brother
whole like
that
how
gives you a headlock and like rubs your hair and stuff. Yeah,
exactly. But
yeah,
the whole like how I got the name Giant's Bane, and he just keeps going on. And it's like this. You can tell it's a totally like made up story.
yeah.
It's just so ridiculous. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good myself.
I,
But
I,
you tell me why.
I, to me, I think that it's because of the outward advances towards Brienne, right?
Mm,
Like he seems to be obviously head over heels for her. Like he
yes.
loves this giant warrior woman. He wants to make her his queen, but he's always spoken about her with such reverence. Whereas I feel like now he's just hitting on her. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I feel, and for whatever reason, it's like he would be speaking about her in her presence previously and making these really bold compliments, and she just didn't know how to take it, right? But he's, you think like, well, that's a little bit weird. He obviously really likes her. That's funny. And then you hear him talk about her in season 7 when he's above the wall, nowhere's near her, and he's just talking to people that he doesn't realize know Brienne. He's like, oh, I have. I have a queen to come home to. Like I have to return to my blonde-haired giant. And the
Yeah.
Hound is like, you're talking about Brienne of Tarth? Like he's confused,
Yeah.
right? Where it's like, and Tormund is like, no, no, she's a goddess. It's just
Yeah.
he's so adamant about it, but he's not talking. I mean, I think he might be talking about sleeping with her, but he's not talking about like getting between her legs, like you hear about women, like men talk about women in the show. He's talking about worshiping her, not about just sleeping with her. And I feel like
Mm,
the lines he's delivering in this show, not only is he talking directly at her, despite it being obvious that she doesn't want him to, he's hitting on her in a way that feels like get in your pants. He's not being like, "How have you been, my queen? Like, what can I do? I want to like, how can I make how can I fight by your side tomorrow?" It's more about just like, "What are you doing later?" It
yeah.
doesn't seem to fit where it's gone. I also appreciate that he was pretty drunk, at that gathering and drinking the whole giant's milk thing. I just the whole long comedic drink out of the horn with stuff coming down his beard. I just found that gross. Like it's just it's
I just thought it was so awkward. It was so awkwardly funny. But again, it seemed like that whole like how like little boys like they like a girl they don't know how to tell
mm-hmm,
them, so they kind
mm-hmm.
of try and act with all this
Well,
bravado
well,
and like
and he can tell that
overdo it.
Jamie's there, right? And that there's some sort of reverence and previous adoration for Jamie, right? That may or may not
Hmm.
still be there. So Jamie's also tall and blonde. I don't remember how tall the actor is, but like he's one of the few people in the scenes that are not shorter than Brienne. Like,
No, I think she's a little taller than him.
oh, is she? Oh, I mean,
Yeah,
Gwendolyn Christie is a very tall person.
she's like what,
I
6'3"?
want to say she's 6'3" or 6'4". I'm
Yeah,
just looking for Nikolai on
Coster-Waldau.
yeah, on IMDb just to see if they mention how tall he is.
Is it
Usually,
Nikolai or Nikolaj?
Nikolai, it's probably Nikolaj. I'm saying Nikolai. He's 6'2".
6'2".
I mean,
Okay.
that's tall for an actor, right? Because
Yeah, yeah, he's
you
tall.
put Brienne next to anybody else, and she completely dwarfs them. Like it's not a question of if they're taller or shorter, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find. There's
You know
Gwendolyn
who else
Christie.
is really short, or sorry, really tall and dwarfs everyone else is Sophie
Oh
Turner.
yeah, no, she's like 5'10" or something.
Yeah,
Yeah. Gwendolyn Christie is 6'3", and
6'3".
I'm just curious now because we're doing this to the people at home and I'm going through IMDb. I know that they've joked about it now twice in the show. And I want to go see how tall Kit Harington is. If they even list that.
I don't think he's very tall.
5'8". He is 2 inches shorter than Sophie Turner, I believe, who's 5'10".
Yeah.
It's one of those things where um, they've now pointed it out twice to the point where like I don't know whether the actor would find it funny. I'm sure at
Yeah.
some point he's probably made his peace with it, but okay, well Sophie Turner's only 5'9". But still, like it in two scenes they've mentioned how short Kit Harington is. In episode
Hmm.
1, Arya jokes about it, and in episode 2, uh, Daenerys says it. Sansa is asking Daenerys about a previous love. What was he like? And Daenerys says, taller. It was just like, wow,
Yeah.
that is a shot. Shots
Yeah.
fired.
I think at this point too, I think it's also, the cast was also saying goodbye to everyone too. So it's like, all right,
Yes.
we got to get our jabs in here,
Yeah.
but like in a friendly way, but
Mm-hmm.
like also in a character way. And I think it's all done out of love for everyone. But I'm 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 really excited to see what happens with Sansa. I really hope she doesn't go in the next episode because I think she has a lot more to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I ideally, I mean, she was ready to like throw down with Daenerys, in their conversation, which is another like thing that I've been noticing about Daenerys. Is like as soon as Sansa was like, "What about the North? We vowed to never bend the knee ever again. So what's going to happen with this?" And you could see that Daenerys is getting visibly angry about it.
And no solution, like no
No
compromise.
solution, no compromise. Yeah, like well, but both of them are very, very strong-headed women.
Oh yeah.
Sansa has gone through, I think, the biggest journey out of the
Mm-hmm.
majority of them. Like she's, gone from like a frilly little girl to now like this queen. Like she is the queen of the North, and she holds herself like a queen, and she's expecting to kind of you know go down defending it. I really hope she doesn't. Again, I hope she doesn't kick it this season. I think she's going
Yeah.
to be one of the last ones to go, but I think she has a lot of closing up to do. I don't think she's had a lot of screen time so far this season, so
No.
I feel like we need more from her, like with more scenes with her, to kind of give her a good condensed arc. Um,
I feel
um,
like she's going to end up being
one of the
a
last.
lot. Well, it's the thing is they can't kill everybody. I say can't in that they could, but I'm saying
They
that
could.
it'll go from being one of the most loved shows to one of the like, why did you do that? Like they're just.
I mean, I think everyone is expecting that, though. I
Well,
think
I
everyone's
think there's going to be
expecting
some
something.
poignant deaths, but I don't think all the Starks are going to die, right? Like I
Yeah,
don't necessarily like. I mean, one could argue that Bran is already dead, right? I mean, like
yeah,
because I mean, if things go to plan, and everything goes the way that the good guys want, then Bran is not going to stay at Winterfell. He's going to leave and go summers off and be part of a tree somewhere. Like it's not going to be that simple for them. But I feel
Yeah.
like, I mean, Arya also is not going to stay at Winterfell. She'll probably visit,
No.
but like if she survives, then she's not going to stay there. I would imagine that
No.
Sansa, if anyone, is going to be the lady in the north. Whether or not she has any control officially is just going to be up to Daenerys. I think, unfortunately, this is just a battle of stubbornness that's just going to last most of the season. I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to. Someone is going to have to die. There's going to be have some sort of communal loss for there to be any kind of resolution. To
Yeah.
realize like our squabbling is going to result in nothing more than additional death on both sides of this argument. So someone is going to have to compromise. Someone somewhere said that Jon was willing to give up his crown for his people, and is Daenerys willing to do the same? And that is still up in the
Mhm.
air, right? We don't know
Yeah.
yet. But I think that was foreshadowing, and like that is the bridge that Daenerys has to cross. She has to say, I will no longer be queen. I will no longer gun for queen. If we can just save everybody, we will figure out this mess later. And if she
Yeah.
does that, then the people, including the people of the North, would be probably more than happy to say, like, you get it now. Like, you understand it's
Yeah.
not about the title because you are willing to say, I don't want to be your queen. I just want to make sure everybody here stays alive. Then she's more likely for the rest of the North to be like, you can be the queen. We would want you to be the queen at that point. And I
Yeah.
think that that's where, um, I think that that's where things kind of get, um, I don't know,
Messy.
messy. Yeah, because ultimately people that they love are going to have to die, which means people that we love are going to have to die. Um,
Gonna have to die.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, in the essence of time, I want to try and wrap things up. I'm just trying to think about what maybe I mean, the elephant in the room is the Arya and Gendry love scene,
Yeah.
which
Uh,
it was
I found a really
awkward.
good tidbit about that. Macy Williams actually tweeted, and she was like, "If you feel uncomfortable, just know that my mother, my stepdad, my two sisters, and my four brothers have all probably watched this too. Ah ha ha, kill me."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, and to point light on the fact that Game of Thrones started filming when Macy was 13 or 14.
yeah.
So she's grown up on set with many of these actors, with many of the crew members, certainly the showrunners. I
Hmm.
remember in one interview, I normally don't dig into this kind of stuff, but I really was curious about what Macy Williams had to say about it. But she was apparently giving carte blanche on how much, how little, or what was depicted in that scene. It's like, look, we want you and Gendry to have a romance, and we want you to sleep together before the big battle. That all makes sense. How that happens, your call. And I thought that that was a nice bit of
Yeah.
information that they put out there. Uh, Kind of surprised that as much was revealed as was revealed. I certainly felt like I was watching my little sister on television. Like it
Yeah.
was not it
Yeah.
was not one of those things where I was just kind of like,
I had to look it up. I was like, "Am I? This is breaking the law right now?" But I'm like, "No, she's 22. Like, she's
yeah.
allowed
She's
to
also a
you
very
know."
little person, so she feels and looks younger. She's also
Yes.
playing a younger individual in the show,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean,
I
in the
think
books,
Arya's
she's
supposed to
even
be what,
younger.
16?
At that point, yes. I think
Yeah.
Arya is like 9 or 10 in book one. And in the show, she's more like 14. Like they paint her as older in the show.
Mm.
All the kids are. All of them are just older. Just
Yeah.
because
Well,
of the
I
stuff that
mean,
happens would just be so inappropriate.
yeah, you can't yeah, say this is going to happen to like a 14, or like Miss Sunday is supposed to be 9 for the entire course of the show.
Right.
Like she like think by the time like at this point now that they're in Winterfell, she'd be like 14.
Right.
But, she's obviously like, an 18 grown woman now, right?
Yeah.
Like um minimum 18.
Yeah.
But no, like I I didn't think it was bad. I think it was a nice thing for Arya to have, like a human moment, even though she's not very good at feeling emotion
Mm-hmm.
anymore. But at the same time, I feel like she's been really, really closed off this season. Like she's just been like all badass all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and she's always been a badass. Like, don't get me wrong, like Arya's always been a badass, but she's also had a lot of other emotion as well. And I feel like now she's kind of closing herself off to a lot of emotion. And I wonder if she's doing that on purpose, just because of the state of things as they are now,
Mm-hmm.
um, or if she's kind of like wrestling with. I know that she's interested in Gendry, obviously, um, but yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah, I didn't find it inappropriate. Like I didn't. It made
No.
sense for the character in the way that she expressed what she wanted to happen. The fact that they foreshadowed a lot. That you get some little giddy moments from her when she sees him last episode. Like there's some stuff where you just like, okay, cool. Like I can see that happening.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, they don't really give you much in terms of the passage of time. So you don't know whether they've been stuck in Winterfell now together for 2 weeks, 2 days, right?
Month. Yeah.
Yeah, a month. Could be a month. Who knows? Um, I feel like, well, maybe not between episodes, because between episodes there was a moment when someone mentions that the Night King. Oh no, it's this episode. So this episode only happens over the course of a couple days, because when Tormund gets
Mm.
back, they say they're going to be here before the nightfall tomorrow, right? So they only
Yeah.
have 24 or 48 hours to get ready for the final push. But between episodes 1 and 2, there's no indication as to how much time has gone past.
I
Probably a
feel like there's
lot.
only been like a week or
Yeah,
two,
but
honestly. Because I
not
mean, like
days. Like
Jamie shows up. Yeah,
yeah,
Jamie shows up at the end of episode
right.
1, and then is like immediately he's there having a meeting
Yeah,
with them. So I don't
yeah.
feel like a lot of time has passed between those two episodes. Like if like a day, if most.
Yeah. Anyway,
Um,
it's so again. I mean, I know they have a history before as well, but I did find some humor in how she's grilling him about like how many people have you slept with. Like,
yeah,
what am I getting myself into? And he's like, I don't keep count. She's like, yeah, you do. Like it's just like I did
just
find that.
calling him out on so much.
Yeah, but calling him out in a good way. Like he's trying to
Mm.
feel more like be more bravado and just like I've lost count. And she's like, you've kept count. He's like, all right, fine, 3. Like like it just it gives you more of a reason to like him. That he's one,
Yeah.
surprised that this is happening. 2, not someone that sleeps with just anybody. So he obviously is has good intentions toward Arya, right? Like, or has intentions that he
Yes.
didn't even know were there. So it's not like he's been, in a game of Thrones where people are just twisting behind people's backs and trying to, sleep and manipulate with everyone. I feel like that's one of those things where you can, if anything, you're looking at Arya like, I don't know what her motivations are. I'm kind of worried that Gendry is going to get hurt in all of this, right? You're not worried about
Yeah.
Arya.
Yeah.
You're worried about Gendry. Whereas Gendry, as far as Arya as a character and a little sister that you've known for 8 years, you're just like not worried about her with him. He's good. He would
Mm.
die defending her,
I'm
sort
more
of
worried
thing.
about him with her.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
We just gotta. It's kind of funny, and I enjoy that switch. Like I enjoy that switch of balance and power in the early seasons, which you can probably attest to being mostly in the hands of men. And here we
Yeah.
are at the end of end of episode 2. End of the series, and most of the power lies with the women,
Yeah.
if not all of
No,
it.
I do
I
really
would
like
say, with
that.
the exception of the Night King, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The question that I have to wrap things up and for everyone to ponder between now and next week is why are they sending women, children, and Tyrion and everybody else that can't defend themselves into the crypt when the Night King, who controls an army of the dead, is approaching? Does not seem like the safest place.
Yeah, no, that feels like a good one too.
It's-
One thing I want to end off on, a really, really great thing that I noticed was how Bran pointed out to Jamie the things we do for love, which echoes a thing that he said in the first
oh, the first episode?
episode when he
Yeah.
shoved
When he
Bran
shoved
out
out
the
the window?
window. That was a really nice roundabout way. And there, that whole scene of them, Jamie apologizing and Bran forgiving and
Mm-hmm.
being like, we wouldn't be where we are now without it. It was a really nice, like, round out that moment and
Yeah.
also showed Jamie's progression as a character. But yeah, so go back to your thing. Yeah, that seems like a really bad idea.
Yeah. Well,
Just
that's,
real bad.
I don't, there has to be more going on, like in the way that you make television, the way that you make things exciting. Everybody that has any sort of sense and defensive skills are going to be outward faced, keeping the dead out. The problem is that all of the people that they're defending are going to be locked in a room with a bunch of dead. So I don't see that going well. Now,
I
granted,
wonder
the
if
tomb the
there's
tomb is probably old enough that I don't think there's much left. So I
yeah, that's what I
don't,
was
and I
thinking.
don't know. I don't know enough about the magic of the Night King to know if he has to have contact with them to raise them, whether it's an area thing. Like, I mean, I just don't know how that works. It seemed, the irony was not lost on me of where they're sticking people. I also feel like there might be a way in there somehow. I just feel like you're going to have Tyrion, Gilly, and a bunch of other people that are not meant to defend these women and children needing to defend these women and children in a place where they can't get out of because they've been locked in for safety. It
Yeah.
just feels like it reminds me of Helm's Deep, right? Like it reminds me of when they put all the women and children in the caverns in Helm's Deep, and there's no way out.
Yeah.
Like you're stuck there and hoping that the people defending the entrance survive. And so I'm not sure how that's going to go. I'm excited that the big battle happens next week and not like in episode 6 or 5 or whatever. Like I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Apparently it's going to be like 3 episodes long.
It's like it's a long one. I didn't look ahead
It's
because
a
I didn't
long
want to
battle.
spoil it, but somewhere I think in one of the articles I was reading about Macy Williams, they mentioned that next week is the big battle and it's the longest episode of Game of Thrones ever filmed. Blah blah blah. And I was like, ah, crap! I didn't necessarily need to know that. I mean, I kind of knew that the battle was happening next week, but I didn't know that it
Mm.
was like that episode, that long one. So it'll
Well,
be.
I thought like all the episodes here and out were going to be an hour and
Oh, probably. Yeah. It's
like
something
80
that's
minutes
lovely
long.
about them is that they're as long as they need to be, which
Yeah.
is good too. But that's really my takeaway is that overall this episode was about forgiveness in the face of death, and you get a lot of very satisfying character moments from all of your favorite characters. Outside
Hmm.
of Jon and Daenerys, there's no real tension left that I can
Well,
tell.
Sansa and
Oh,
Daenerys.
sorry, Sansa and Daenerys, but like the bigger
But like the Starks and
the
Daenerys,
yeah,
really.
but the bigger ones like Sansa and Arya are not at each other. Jon has been reunited with Arya last episode. Like all the little bits that you've been waiting for have kind of just falling into place. And so like even with like Jorah and Sam giving him the sword, like that is a nice load off of Jorah's shoulders, right? Like he's going into
Yeah.
battle proud, not still ashamed of his family. Like he's doing all these noble things, and I feel like they're showing you all this on purpose. The problem is that it puts everybody under the gun, going into the next episode, which is what they want. Like they want people to have no idea what's going to happen,
Mm.
and I think that's a good place to
That's
wrap it
yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Citadel Cafe. If you've enjoyed this, you can head on over to thecitadelcafe.com, take a look at the show notes and things. We have also an email where you can let us know your thoughts about Game of Thrones. That is thecitadelcafe@gmail.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Android, Stitcher, and Spotify. But of course, spreading the podcast around via word of mouth is a great way to support the show as well. Speaking of supporting the show, if you'd like to join the fray, not the phrase, but like our fray, then head on over to patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. We are proud to be a listener supported podcast. We don't read ads or show ads on the show. It is you who keep us going. And so you can join the Discord. You can support the show in a number of different ways. One level I'd like to point out is the $2 Barista Cut level, which means that you get extra content. We try to record different episodes here and there in between stuff, and those bonus episodes go out to patrons only. And that is the Citadel Cafe over on patreon.com. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am doing online at joelduggan.com. That includes my illustration and design portfolio. And you should head over to Twitch. That is where I'm hanging my video producing hat most of the time these days, and that's just twitch.tv/Joel Duggan. Been streaming a lot of Minecraft. Minecraft 1.14 came out yesterday, and we did a live stream taking a look at the new features and the new bugs, of which there are many. So if you're curious about that, then check that out at twitch.tv/Joel Duggan. Megan, where can people find you, your YouTube channel, and all the stuff that you are doing online?
People can find me online at Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Megan Townsend. Hopefully, I'll be able to get that customized URL soon. And then for my personal project, The Heir of Keldanon, that's also on Instagram. I will post a link for that. You can find that on my Instagram anyway. I'll post a link for that.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.